What if I told you there is a sound playing in this room right now, and you have never heard it, not once, but your body has already reacted to it? Not a hidden speaker, not a trick, a real sound wave moving through the air around you at this exact moment, completely invisible to your ears, and yet your stress hormones can respond to it without your permission. We assume that if we cannot hear something, it is not there. That assumption is wrong. There is an entire layer of sound beneath human hearing, a layer your ears were never built to register, but your body was built to feel. It is called infrasound. And once you understand what it is doing to you, you will never think about silence the same way again. Here is the basic design problem. Human hearing runs on a precise range, roughly 20 Hertz up to 20,000 Hertz. Hertz just means cycles per second, how many times a sound wave vibrates the air and your eardrum every second. Anything below 20 Hertz is called infrasound. Too slow, too low for your eardrum to convert into a signal your brain calls a sound. But here is the detail almost nobody knows. Your ears are not the only part of your body wired to detect vibration, and we are going to show you proof, real, measured, peer-reviewed proof, that a frequency you cannot consciously hear can still raise your stress hormones and ripple outward across the entire planet in ways scientists use, on purpose, every single day. Let's start with the part of this story that happens inside you, right now, without your permission. In 2026, researchers at McEwan University in Canada ran an experiment that should not have worked, given everything we assumed about hearing. They sat 36 volunteers down, played them calm instrumental music or unsettling horror-style audio, and secretly, for half of them, added a second layer underneath, a frequency around 18 Hertz, completely below human hearing. The volunteers were asked directly afterward, was there a strange low hum in the room? Almost none could tell. Statistically, they were guessing at random. But their saliva told a different story. Researchers measured cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. The group secretly exposed to 18 Hertz infrasound showed a measurable spike in cortisol, along with higher irritability and a tendency to describe the same music as sadder than the control group did. Their conscious mind detected nothing. Their body detected everything. So if your ears cannot hear it, how is your body picking it up at all? The answer is that infrasound does not need your ears. It can act directly on the machinery inside them. Your inner ear is built around an almost impossibly small organ called the cochlea, a fluid-filled, snail-shaped chamber that converts sound into the electrical signals your brain reads as hearing. In 2007, researchers in Berlin exposed volunteers to a 6 Hertz infrasound tone, again, far too low to hear, and measured something called otoacoustic emissions. That is a fancy term for a sound your own cochlea quietly produces on its own, almost like an engine idling. The infrasound physically modulated that signal. It reached into the fluid of the inner ear and changed how the cochlea was behaving. In real time, with zero conscious perception involved, your hearing organ was responding to a sound your hearing could not register. That is not a metaphor. That is measured, published science. A frequency that can quietly move the fluid inside your skull is not a small, isolated curiosity confined to a lab. An entire species figured out how to weaponize that same physics, on purpose, long before any human built a microphone. Elephants are loud animals. You already know that. What you almost certainly do not know is that most of what an elephant says to other elephants you will never hear in your life. Elephant calls regularly drop below 10 Hertz, deep into true infrasound. Researchers studying African elephants have documented these calls, traveling several kilometers across open terrain, letting separated herds coordinate, warn each other of danger, and locate mates across distances where sight and smell are completely useless. The reason this works is pure physics, built into the shape of sound itself. Low-frequency waves lose far less energy to air, humidity, and obstacles than high-frequency ones do. The lower the pitch, the farther it survives. Elephants did not invent a clever trick. They tuned their entire vocal anatomy to exploit a physical law that was already sitting there. And elephants are not unique in this. Once you start looking for sound that lives below the edge of human hearing, you find it is one of the most efficient long-distance communication channels that has been engineered, which raises an obvious question. If animals built an entire secret language out of this frequency range, could something else at a much larger scale be using it too? On the morning of August 27, 1883, the island of Krakatoa in Indonesia produced what is still considered the loudest event ever measured on planet Earth. The explosion was so powerful it ruptured eardrums on ships dozens of kilometers away. But the part that matters here happened after the audible blast faded. A pressure wave, an infrasonic wave, far below human hearing, kept moving. Barographs in cities across the globe, London, Washington, Tokyo, recorded the same pressure spike arriving again and again and again as the waves circled the planet multiple times over 5 full days. Humans without any concept of infrasound had still built instruments sensitive enough to catch it by accident. A century later, scientists realized this property could be engineered on purpose. Today, there is a network most people have never heard of, built specifically to listen for sound no human ear can register. It is called the International Monitoring System, and it runs over 50 specialized infrasound stations positioned strategically around the entire planet. It was engineered for one purpose only: detecting secret nuclear weapons tests anywhere on Earth by catching the infrasound signature only a nuclear explosion produces. But because the network is so sensitive, it now picks up far more than bombs. It listens to erupting volcanoes. It tracks meteors exploding in the upper atmosphere. It has identified the distinct infrasonic rumble of rocket launches circling the globe. Scientists built an artificial sense organ for the entire planet, and it works using the exact same invisible frequencies your own body has been quietly reacting to this whole time. So here is the full picture. A frequency too low for your ears can still raise your cortisol and shift your mood without your permission. Animals as large as elephants built a hidden communication network out of it that spans kilometers of open ground. And humanity, almost by accident, ended up engineering a planet-sized version of the exact same trick. A global listening network built specifically to hear what no person ever could. The sound was never missing. We simply were not built to hear it. We had to build something else to listen for us. If this changed how you think about the word silence, subscribe. There is a lot more extraordinary science hiding in plain sight, and we are only getting started.